It's a mindset. Just look around and see what we can do. It's just incredible, the potential. But we got to get going now because we can't be left following the old example, because where are we now? And look around. There's all the homeless you see on the streets and stuff like that.
Welcome to What Would Our Kupuna Do? This is Richard Haas' blog, which looks at what we can do today to make Hawaii Island a more sustainable place to live so our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren won't be priced out of here. They'll be able to stay in Hawaii and live good lives here. We wanted to start with this white paper that recently came out from Pat Sullivan and Paul Brewbaker. Now, this white paper is called Hawaii, Losing the Future. The Future is What We Make It. And Patrick Sullivan, one of the authors, is founder and CEO of Oceanit. And the other writer of this white paper is Paul Brewbaker, who is former Bank of Hawaii chief economist. Now he's principal of TZ Economics. And what a fascinating paper. They say in this white paper, unless Hawaii takes note and acts, we fear that Hawaii's unique people, culture, environment, and way of life are at risk. The Hawaii of the future may be unrecognizable. And so they're saying Hawaii needs to change its perspective to develop human capital while exporting innovation and knowledge to the rest of the world. That's very different from what we're doing right now.
Yes, yeah. And it's so easy to understand if you hear them say, we can't depend on tourism,
right?
Because what has happened? We were just going downhill, but we need to change, and our leaders need to have a vision for the future. And it really is about attitude, and I always come back to what my pop told me when I was a small kid. Not no can. I'll get 1,000 reasons why no can. I'm only looking for the one reason why I can. Then he would say something like, find 2 answers for every problem and 1 more just in case. And it was very basic. He didn't explain it. He just left it like that for us to figure it out. But when you figure it out and you say 2 answers for every problem and 1 more just in case, what that means is you have to base each of the alternatives in facts and science, because otherwise the end result is not going to be valid. So it's very simple. It doesn't take much to understand that.
Yeah. And they're talking about the decline of tourism here and how we need to move to an innovation economy. And they say what Hawaii lacks is collective self-confidence and the political will to step into the future, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know how you change that. Do you see that as something we can work on?
Yeah, I do. Like, for example, when we're talking about Kyoki and Malia, we're talking about 2 things, the Modern-Day Ahupua'a and the Culture Center above the clouds. So now what just happened recently was a big pushback from the Hawaiian community about what is going to be happening up on Mauna Kea. That's not to say that you can't do it. It is to say that you got to do it in the right way. So I've been a supporter of astronomy and the 30-meter telescope from the start. And I don't see it as a bad thing. But what I do see is today we can take a look at what's going on up there and be leaders. And that's what we really want to do as a society. We need to be leaders, because what we can do will be an example for the rest of the world.
Yep. And now this all ties into what you're doing with the Modern-Day Ahupua'a at your land at Pepe'ekeo at Hamakua Springs. So the big picture on that is about farming, something that young people go into because of its importance, right? The whole thing about energy and food. Give us a little look at that.
Yeah, so it's all about energy. It takes energy to do work. And we generally say it takes energy to do GDP. But you know what the bottom line is? The primary source of energy is food. Without food, you cannot do anything. But most people don't understand that. They think it's coal and natural gas and stuff like that. It's important, but nothing more important than food. So if that is the case, and we have resources here on this island, especially between the Wailuku River and Hakalau, we've got 16 perpetual springs and streams running down. It runs all the time. And the reason that happens is because the northeast trades push up against Mauna Kea, water goes into the land, and then it just keeps on coming out as springs. So now that's an incredible resource. So some people just don't even have water. They're having such a hard time. We have such an abundance of water that it grows all the trees. It covers up the river. You don't even know you have it, but we do have it. It's an incredible resource. And then another resource is the soil between those 2 places, Wailuku River and Hakalau, is made from cinder that went up into the air, fell on the ground. So another way of saying it, John Cross mentioned it, that if you find any rocks in the soil, it was brought in by man. Yeah. So when you start to think about it, holy smokes, we've got this incredible soil to work with as well. Now, of course, you have to learn the limitations, etc., about the soil, but you can figure that out. It's not difficult. And then on top of that, that's not to say that you cannot use modern technology, which we should use on top of what was done in ancient times. The potential is just incredible. It's a mindset. Just look around and see what we can do. It's just incredible, the potential. But we got to get going now, because we can't be left following the old example, because where are we now? And look around. The result is all the homeless you see on the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what you're doing with this 172 acres at Pepe'ekeo as a modern-day Ahupua'a project to show what can be done, that fits right into this whole idea of an innovation economy that they're talking about, right? Because you've got all the resources to put something together that can really take us into the future in a different and positive way.
So we have the hydroelectric, and that was because the plantations did a flume system while they were running sugar, and they used the flume system to take the sugar cane to the mill. So it's been there 100 years. So what we did is we adapted it and put in modern technology, which is, turbines that we just got, the same kind of turbines that they're using on the west side of this island. We just got them from where they get it from, and we use the same engineers. And they just sent it from Washington, and we put it in place in a container, the same container, hooked it up, and now it's generating electricity. Can you imagine that? I mean, it wasn't rocket science, It's just understanding who had the resource, how you do them, and just go do them. So we have that. But on top of that, over the years, I've been working on this for many years. Yeah. So over the years, we worked with Andrade Camp, which is just close to our border. And because of that, as the sugarcane seed brewers started transitioning out, they gave us the use of a 2-inch pipe for our land. Now, most people only get a 5-inch pipe. There's a huge difference between the two. So if you have it, what can you do with it? You can do whatever you need to do to make a certified kitchen, a hub for people to bring their products so that it can be distributed. And if you work on something that's food safety certified, because the food safety certification is the issue that all the big retailers want to make sure that their customers are safe. So one of the newer technologies is using ozonated water. The ozonated water system is really good because you're using water that has O3, and oxygen wants to stay in its O2 form. O3 is unstable. So the one oxygen wants to hook up with anything, and it happens to be, that's why it's food safety really effective, because it hooks onto the bad stuff. The only thing you get left is water, and it doesn't last very long because it doesn't want to stay in O3. So it's just an incredible, put it this way, for Japan, they really don't want to receive irradiated products, but ozonated water is a total different thing. So that's what we are looking at. And why are we doing that? Is because farmers, everybody knows farmers have a hard time. But why is it? And what can we do to help solve the problem? The why is that we have topography that's not flat where you can run big equipment. It's up and down, valleys and these kinds of things. So it's forced farmers to be small scale. Okay, if you're small scale, you can't compete on scaling up to run your costs down. What you have to do is something different. So something different would be, what happened if you could figure out 5 different income streams for each individual farmer? That would give the farmer resiliency. And then if you had a proper food safety certification system, then the retailers who are competing with each other, so they would like to have the folks that depend on for transportation to come and pick up stuff. So that gives that little operation there an advantage. They're not just stuck to one. They're now being able to sell to a whole bunch of different folks. And if you can imagine this, let's assume you had a way of growing sweet potato with, on one end, there's a fertilizer bin and a trough system that is perfectly level, and you have a float valve that keeps the amount of water in it constant. And then on top of that, you set up media. You got to figure out the spacing and stuff like that, but have something that absorbs the water from that system below and absorbs it up into the root system. Now, all you got to do is tell your kids, hey, go check the water. You don't have to do anything, and not only that, you can harvest 100%. 2, you run it through the ozonated system, you're food safety certified. 3, you can go and do value-added stuff. Now, we're talking about sweet potato. There are other things you can do. If you're talking about sweet potato, the Okinawan sweet potato, it has a special taste, yeah? But, so that's a specialty thing. And then you can take it one step further. What happened if you could keep that taste, but make flakes out of it so that you can take it somewhere else and then add water, and then you're back to the original taste and stuff like that? Now you're into value added. And then the farmer, because he can sell 100% of his product, he doesn't have to have a high grade and low grade and whatever. He can have one price. Not much thinking about that. It's new technology, yeah? Because it's obvious that if you look around, oh man, there's so much sweet potato growing out. But that's not to say that you can't use modern technology to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, you should keep your mind open to 2, 3 different alternatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. Anybody who grows bamboo on the Ahupua'a coast knows it grows wild. You don't even have to look at it. It's crazy.
Out of control.
So can you imagine if you had a way of leveraging the growth of this on the soils, because it grows really well in the deep soil of the Ahupua'a coast, yeah? And
Yeah.
especially between Hakalau and Wailuku River.
Yeah.
Now, so I've been asking around, what would it take for us to do a minimum size bamboo operation? And roughly, it would take about $1 million for a plant and then about 500 acres of production. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of acres on the Ahupua'a coast. I'm not saying that you got to have 500 acres in one place. What I am saying is you can help the farmer put, just one corner of their property in bamboo. Don't even give it a thought, and then do your other things so that you can end up with multiple income streams. But can you imagine?
That's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're working with the NRCS, the U.S. government agency for agroforestry. And what they encourage is high height crops with different heights in between. And they've got a whole bunch of different crops that you can use. For the tall ones, you can use, they have a whole list of them, and the medium-sized one, a whole list of them. Then you just got to figure out what works. It makes the most sense to the farmer. Me, I'm thinking, gee, I wonder if you could do Miley in between somewhere.
Wow.
Because it needs some shade. Anyway, just thinking.
That's kind of a forest. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I'm not somebody who's going to go do this. I'm too old. If I were in my 30s, I would, for sure, I'd be right on it. But I would like to kind of help set up a system so that we can support different people doing this kind of stuff. But we want to do it in a way that some foreign investor doesn't come in with all the money and extracts all the value out of Hawaii. That is not acceptable. What it needs to be is owned by the farmers so that the value stays within our community, especially the farming community, because those folks are the most important, yet the least appreciated. So we got to figure out how we make this work. A co-op makes sense. And, a multi-crop kind of co-op would probably be okay. So me as a landowner, I'll be over there saying, okay, what do you folks think? Can we all get together as a group, make this into a broad, horizontal kind of a operation? There is no more honorable profession to be in than food production, because it's the primary source of energy. And without it, you die. So we have got to set up a system and a narrative so the young people can feel proud of what they're doing. Because if they feel that and they can survive, they can raise their family, and yet they can take care of the community out here in the middle of the Pacific, we can do this. We got to talk to the young people, though, to get them to understand, tell them what we're trying to do, get them to participate.
Oh, this is so interesting. I love how it ties into these observations by Sullivan and Brewbaker, because I found that white paper fascinating. I'll put the link to that down in the description box below so people can check that out if they want to.
I'm really excited about this, as you can tell. I think we got to go now, though, and this is the time. And what is coming up really soon is on the 25th. There's going to be a meeting at Pepe'ekeo, and they're going to be talking about Makea Bridge. So Makea Bridge has a temporary thing in place where you can drive over one lane at a time, one car at a time. But when they fix the bridge, you can't use that anymore until it's done. So the lower community is worried that there'll be too much traffic coming through their community. And the upper community is worried that they can't get out. So both of them came to me and asked, what do you think about putting a paved road above the bridge and come around and out? I said, well, I'm for that if you folks are for that, because it'll play right into what we're wanting to do, that food production, food safety hub. So just that's what's coming up.
Yeah. Is that something you guys are going to do, or it's just a discussion right now?
I think, this is something we need to do, because the county folks are going to be there because they have the equipment up there on the side of the road right now. We just need support from people to say, why don't we do that? Because this can help the whole island.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Really interesting, Richard. Thank you. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of What Would Our Kupuna Do? Thanks, everybody. Ahui ho.
Okay.